Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, especially if you love MMA as much as I do. I talked a lot about Johnny Walker last night, about his win over Anthony Smith. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about who I think he should fight next. First off, I do consider him a top five guy in the light heavyweight division. He's coming off 3 wins, and before that, he would get beat not several times, but quite a few times. But he always puts himself in harm's way, and if he doesn't get knocked out, he knocks you out or submits you. Usually, he knocks you out. Silly. I like that he actually got a decision over Anthony Smith. He showed that he can go to distance if he needs to. He's okay with it, I guess, playing it safe if he needs to. Sometimes you don't want to be overly aggressive and then get caught with something big and get put away. So I think it was maturity on his part. As far as who he should fight next, excuse me, there's only two people that really come to mind. He needs to fight a former world champion next to prove, hey, I can beat world champions. Jan Blachowicz would be a great matchup for him. I think it'd be the toughest matchup for him because Jan is not just a striker, but he's a grappler. He's a guy that's okay with making it a boring fight if he needs to. Blachowicz would be a great fight for him because of his fighting style and the fact that he has experience in light heavyweight title matches, including a big win over Israel Adesanya at light heavyweight a couple of years back. He beat him and managed to use the grappling and was able to hang with him on the feet. So someone with that level of experience, a guy who's fought other world champions like Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman. Weidman, right? He fought Weidman? I think he did. So that's big for him if he can beat a guy like Jan Blachowicz, a guy who's underrated in my opinion, and a guy that would really propel you to the top of the rankings if you beat him and beat him impressively. And then there's Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira is a really good fight for him. Pereira easily could be a 205-pounder, a light heavyweight. He's coming off his knockout loss to Adesanya, but again, that's a guy he's already beaten 3 times in combat sports, twice in kickboxing, and now MMA. He's a former UFC middleweight champ, so if he were to beat Pereira, that would be that'd be a very tough test for him. You wouldn't have to worry about the grappling as much at all. You'd be in a slugfest. And Johnny Walker has proven, unless he gets finished, he usually finishes you. So there won't be any cautious fighting style or anything like that if he fights Pereira. I think fighting Pereira would be more exciting for the fans because Pereira's a striker. He's a very good striker. His kickboxing is really good. If you really only got to finish Adesanya in kickboxing, you are special. And you're the only guy to finish Adesanya in MMA, period. You are something special. So I think it's going to be out of Jan Blachowicz next. I don't think he'll get a title shot. I don't think he needs that yet. I think he needs to beat a former world champion first or another top guy before he can say, hey, I deserve a title shot. Because he does have quite a few losses in the UFC, and he has lost some fights he shouldn't have lost. But he's certainly in the right direction. And I'm a big Johnny Walker fan. I really am. I've watched him for a few years now. So with that being said, I'd say either Jan Blachowicz or Alex Pereira. I think Blachowicz will be a bit more of a boring fight because then you have Blachowicz willing to grapple and clinch fight if he needs to. He's a more technical fighter out of him and Pereira. Not technical, not to say Pereira's not technical, but Pereira will bring mostly striking to the fight, obviously. He's going to stick to the bread and butter. Those are both fights that he could lose because Blachowicz has so much experience in MMA, and he might use that grappling to his advantage to fight a guy like Johnny, who's more likely to put himself in harm's way, whereas Blachowicz can just put him out and outsmart him striking. Or Pereira, who's got a wealth of experience in stand-up combat, he could knock out Johnny Walker because Johnny Walker's been KO'd before. So, but if Johnny beats either guy, there's no way anyone could deny him a title shot. So I think one of those guys has to be next for him, definitely.